This podcast has mature language, not intended for underage viewers.
Woo, boy, it is cold. I'm not feeling this cold, man. I am not feeling this cold. Hey, I want to welcome y'all to another episode of Time to Ball. We getting situated here. This is episode, I think it's 11, 12, somewhere like that. I need to do a better job with keeping up with my numbers because I don't want anybody to think I didn't get a high school education on account and everything. Hey, this is a special episode of Time to Ball. As I told y'all before, I was going to start doing, a lot of interviews, having people on, talking, chopping it up. There are two types of chopping it up. See, from what I was told, chopping it up with what everybody else says is not what chopping it up meant back in my neighborhood. See, chopping it up in my neighborhood meant, you smoking a blunt, you blowing some smoke and you talking. Apparently, chopping it up just means you just hanging out and talking. So this is the new chopping it up, okay, mama? That's what I'm doing, the new chopping it up. I'm chopping it up with my man, Lee Williams. What's up,
going
baby?
on, man? What's going on? Appreciate it.
Man.
It's a pleasure, honor.
I know we have been trying to do this for a while.
Absolutely.
I finally figured it out. I cracked the code. I got this set up. So, now we can sit around and talk. I've known Lee since 1991.
Absolutely.
1991.
Had hair back then, man.
Yeah, that's really telling our age. Really
Absolutely.
telling our age. So we're going to get into a lot of stuff. I'm not even going to put a time limit on this one. We have some time to talk. So we're going to try to take care of some of the other stuff. And then we just going to, let everything flow. So let's start there. So my man Lee, what's good?
Sir. What's good, man? And once again, pleasure. I appreciate everything you're doing for the culture. When you name the street cred, I'm thinking, when you first named it, I can't remember what year it was, but when you named it street cred, I'm thinking, oh man, but you've always been authentic. I'll say that.
Yeah.
And you've always, and when you meant street, you meant, the ideal of really pushing things forward. And that's really, kind of, you become an icon as far as in this space, doing this where kids have thrived and things of that nature. And most importantly, coaches like myself and things of that nature have been able to piggyback off things you're doing. So I'm not a kiss up type guy, just being honest, and just want to say thank you, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm going to have to send a donation to you for using the word icon.
Come on, that's real. That is real.
I had a parent tell me that at one point, they was like, oh, you guys are an institution. We consider you an institution. I was like, I had to look it up. Like, wait a minute, you mean I'm like doing some bad stuff? And I had to look it up, and it wasn't exactly, the definition wasn't exactly what they were saying, but
right.
I kind of got it.
Right.
So, man, let me, you have a long, extensive career on both sides. So,
gotcha.
Let's start with, your playing days, how it all got started with you from back in the day.
Man, that was back in the day. But as far as my playing days and all of high school, grew up in the Northeast, El Paso, and obviously went to Andrews High School, Eagle for Life.
Right.
It's where really I learned at Veterans Park, where I learned my game,
right.
And most importantly, the mentality.
Mm-hmm.
Similar to places, similar to where you grew up at in Dallas. If you couldn't play, you couldn't play. You couldn't get on the court, and so just from that, just having that passion, having that high octane type of energy that you needed to. Succeed, if that meant taking a little boxing match outside. Sometimes that's what it was too. And then from there, to be honest, me playing in college was a total accident. I was literally in community college. I won't tell you what device I had that my father contacted me on, a pager. And so, I was in community college. He said, hey, we're getting ready to leave. And rest his soul, God rest his soul, my junior high principal at H.E. Charles, Paul Strelzin, made a call for me and I was able to drop those classes in El Paso Community College to take off and leave, and that really started my college career. Didn't know what to expect. My parents really didn't know what a scout was. We didn't know what AAU was. Didn't understand what travel basketball was. I mean, it was just kind of local stuff, and so that's really where I started. And that was at Hardin Simmons. Played a year there. Really experienced a lot of things. Met one of my best friends, Shannon Wood, there, and it was just a situation where I could only stay there a year. A lot of racial tension, things of that nature. In Abilene, Texas. No disrespect to Abilene, but it was back in those days. It was really a different type of environment that I didn't experience here, and and my reaction to it wasn't the best. And so, and from there, I was going to go ahead and transfer the story was I was going to go to JUCO in California. Orlandis Rush, basketball player at UTEP at the time, we're really good friends, and he, had me set up in California. My grandfather got sick, and so he came down, got really ill, and my duty was to come and help the family. And so at that point in time, I went to go talk to Coach Haskins. I remember the first I had on a UNLV jacket, which wasn't. I'm a huge Larry Johnson fan at the time, and so he was completely annoyed. So I was talking to Marlon Maxey, kind of after practice, and then he came over and said, "Who are you?" I said, "I'm Lee Williams." "Oh, you don't want to heard about." So his God rest his soul too. First thing he said to me, "Are you fat? You look fat." I said, "Coach, I'm not fat, man. I'm just kind of a thick guy." And so we had a conversation. At that time, the school was on probation. And so he said, "Hey, listen, I need a big. If we don't get a big, I'll take care of everything. If we do get a big, which happened to be George at that time, they picked up George. If we do get a big, we'll have to work around that. Wink, wink." So I'm not gonna tell any details on that. So allegedly, they kind of took care of me on the other end, books and things of that nature, whatever, what have you. So it was just a roundabout process, and so that really had I guess open gym was really the tryout. And so before that, I was playing every Sunday on not Stout Gym on Fort Bliss. So Orlandis Rush, I would play with him. So Orlandis Rush told Gary Brewster to come see me. But when I typically go to Canada in the summer. I was going to go to Canada every summer. So I'd be in Canada for 2 weeks. So that 2 week period when Brewster was going to scout me over at Stout, I wasn't there.
Right.
So, so I had to, I probably would have been officially signed and committed then through there, but obviously UTEP was in a situation where people were leaving and things of that nature. So that's really how I got to UTEP. And when I met you, a lot of battles in what do you call it, Jim? What do you call it?
It was a special leave back when we was there.
Yes. Memorial. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. We had a lot more in Memorial.
Yeah, and that's what Keenan never crossed me up ever because I never guarded it. I was smart enough. Not really to guard Keenan, but yeah, we had a lot of great games in.
You know what? And I'm so glad you brought that up because I've brought it up before. And it's like after things go for some time, you start to wonder, like, damn, did it happen like that? And your situation and mine were parallel. I mean, I was told the same thing. Like, we got 2 scholarships, so we can't, we're not gonna be able to, and we're gonna help you out. But I didn't have anybody like family wise.
Gotcha.
So like when it was like, you're gonna have to walk on, and I'm like, okay, what's walk on? And then they explained it to me, and it's like my books and stuff was taken care of because I had academic scholarship as well through my father's job. But it was like, well, you can't work. I said, what do you mean I can't work, man? I'm paying my dorms. I'm trying to get an apartment, and I was like, man, I don't think this is gonna work.
Right.
So it's one of those things that has always bothered me to this day, and it was the catalyst for why I started.
Amen.
This.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. So, and so, for me, This is, I know what it feels like not to get recruited.
Right.
I know what that feels like. I know what it feels like to be completely good enough,
Right.
but not having anyone to advocate for you,
Right.
not having any avenue of, where to go, how to do it, where to go play.
Right.
And so the skill piece wasn't the issue because I got to Hardin Simmons. I did well, started, had solid numbers there. But that just wasn't the place for me.
Right. Right.
And,
Look, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Quick Coach Haskins, funny story.
Mm-hmm.
I met him and everything. I had seen him, and one time, okay, I'm with Coach. It was in Miranda.
Gil.
Yeah, that's why I know him as Gil. Coach Gil.
Miranda, you're right.
I'm with Twan. I'm with Ralph. We're outside the door in the hallway. Coach Haskins comes walking up, right? They're kind of giggling. They're giggling because they're like, watch what happens. I don't know what's going on.
Right.
Coach comes up, it's like, everybody's saying hey. And I was like, hey, Coach, how you doing? He's like, hey, how's it going? How everything doing? And in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, oh, shit, he don't know who I am. And he says, and I can hear them giggling, man. They're all fucking giggling. He's like, so he says, how's your brother? And I said, my brother? He's like, yeah, your brother. I said, my brother? He said, your brother Tim. How's Tim? How's Tim doing? And I said, Coach, I don't have a brother named Tim. And he says, oh, I'm sorry. You look just like him. How the hell are you anyway like that? So after he walks off and stuff, they're cracking up. And I'm like, I didn't get it at the time. And then they was like, Ralph was like, RIP to Ralph Davis. He's like, dog, he think you Tim Hardaway's younger brother. And I was like, oh, okay. Just kind of went on by. So that was my Coach Haskins' funny moment, man. He was a great guy. But I'm sorry, continue.
No, he was, man. I mean, for a point, I'll be honest, like I thought my first name was I'm sick of you. Because you knew my last name. I'm sick of you, Williams, on the plane, on the court. Boot me out of practice a couple times. So, man, he was different. I honestly wish I would have caught him earlier because, when I was there, he was kind of declining a little bit health-wise and things of that nature. Doctors coming in and a lot of the trainers coming in before practice and after practice. So, he, a trooper that he was, he pushed through for sure, man. But I definitely learned a whole lot. Him, the Hawaii trip was the one for me. He came on the plane. I guess he was losing his balance everywhere he was walking. And he was red in the face. I'm like, looked at him, he said, don't you say a word. I'm sick of you, Williams. I was like, oh, okay, Coach. So we already knew Coach liked the spirits. Yeah. And so, but nothing but respect. A lot of the players he coached were friends of my parents, friends of our family, from Bobby Joe Hill, Willie Cager to this day. Willie Cager called them Scoops from New York. I was blessed in the sense that a lot of those players came to my middle school games, came to my junior high games, high school games. So I was really blessed to be around that kind of environment.
Right. So you shift at some point. You decide to start coaching. So before we get into the coaching thing, the question I would ask is, why? Why did you decide to go into coaching?
Well, first and foremost, I honestly, my plan was to go into occupational therapy.
Okay.
So I was kind of substituting on the side. And so my elementary principal was in charge of, she was in charge of the hiring at that point in time, HR, Barbara Browder. So she called me in the office and I thought I was in trouble. She said, hey, I've been watching you. I had no idea. So principals were writing a report on me and how I was doing. So she said, you're going to be a teacher? I said, no, ma'am, I'm not. She said, yes, sir, you are. She said she had made me bring my degree plan in. I had to change everything. I went home and told my mom. My mom said, well, you better do what that lady says. And so I had there was no plans for me to teach. And the coaching just came by my experiences. I went to a small school, played a lot, had a lot of success, went to UTEP, and everybody thinks they should play, you know. Right. But I knew there were a couple guys ahead of me, and the playing time just wasn't there.
Right.
You know, but you know, I also didn't have that that voice off the court to teach me how to keep pushing and not get, you know, this is the process and things of that nature. And so, you know, that's where that coaching piece came in, just from my experiences, and just not being wanting to be a voice for people off the court and kind of be that kind of guidance, if that makes sense, for young players.
Right.
And so, to be honest, I was going to go overseas, Austria. Orlando's Rush set that up as well. But I had promised my grandfather before he passed I was going to get my degree. Right. I was 23 hours away from getting my degree. And so I just, and my knees were talking. The knees were about done from tendonitis to whatever else it was. And I took 23 hours that last semester, finished up my degree. Was going to get into student teaching. Before I did that, I got a call from Coach Harper at that time, Jeff, not Tony, but I can't remember the other coach's name. He was at Jeff at the time, wanted me to coach high school basketball. Then Coach Kenny John brought me over, wanted me to coach as well when I finished my student teaching. They wouldn't let me do it, and so I had to finish the student teaching, and that's when I got a hold of Kenny John. He got a hold of me. And we just talked about, you know, my Northeast days and just how, you know, what my basketball IQ was, just, you know, my style of play and anything of that nature. Right. And so, you know, speaking of street cred, you know, I had to get him to understand that because I'm from a certain area, I can play in anyway. And so, you know, maybe there's a certain style that you're used to seeing where I'm from in the Northeast. But our style of play is any type of basketball because we just love it. Right. And so he was really thrilled with that and had a great respect, had a different kind of respect for the Northeast, Andress, and so on and so forth. But long story short, I ended up coaching over at America's High School. Okay. It was an opportunity. Right. And so it was, you're going to be involved in coaching because you can get this job teaching. And that's really how it was. And so Mr. Phil Hatch was at the AD at the time at Socorro Independent School District. So got on there, started coaching at Americas, actually opened up that school with Matt Larson. Okay. And I was a JV coach and went through it from there. Started 7th, 8th, 9th at campus, started 7th, 8th, 9th, and just kind of went from there. Didn't have a gym, so we had to bus to elementaries and different middle schools, so it was definitely trial and error, basically. So
it was like playing at a JUCO.
Pretty much, and that's exactly how it was. And so our first season were all away games. Didn't have a home game.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it was different, very different. But you know, what it did was it gave me an understanding of how to build things, how to start from scratch, because I hadn't had that experience. You know, from not having enough basketballs to not having, you know, having to travel with everything and just really being, word I want to use is just having an imagination of, hey, if we don't have this is how we can kind of make up for it. Right. And so, you know, that's how I got my first coaching stint. From there, Coach Larson ended up leaving, going into another school, Coronado, and Coach Brooks, Coach Mike Brooks, who's still there now at Americas, came in. And it was a blessing for me because from Coach Larson to Coach Brooks, it wasn't good, it wasn't better or worse, it was just different. And I learned two perspectives. You know, I learned it's okay to laugh a little bit, and you know, it's okay to be hyper serious at times too. Right. So I got the best of both worlds because I worked for them for both, I think, 5 years apiece. And then Coach Mike Brooks made me leave Americas and take the Horizon job. Okay. It was another startup program. However, this one was different because you weren't going to build 7th, 8th, and 9th. You were going to go from JV to varsity immediately. And so that was another, you know, I had to really speed up my process, and just speed everything up. And so our first year, we were I think we were 3-22, if I'm not mistaken, just being honest. But I knew we were okay. People used to look at me like, what is he talking about? Because we had lost 12 to 15 games by 5 points or less.
Right.
So I knew we were there.
Yeah.
And then the following year, we ended up going, I think we ended up winning 17 games that year. So it was a huge turnaround. And just the experience I got from Coach Brooks and Coach Larson, it was invaluable.
Right.
I mean, I was way ahead of where I should have been. And so, that's really kind of how that going. Fast forward to that, grandmother ends up getting sick, and I have to, that was my first torn Achilles, actually. I remember that year that I had to get out. Every torn Achilles had been in a student faculty game.
Oh, my God.
So to any coaches out there, if you're listening, leave the student faculty game alone. Do the clock. I can promise you. Okay? Do the clock. And so I ended up getting out of coaching. Still was a teacher, still became an educator, was an educator. And so from there, a guy I knew had a girls team. And I'm just going to be honest. Girls basketball was like me going to an opera. Wasn't going to happen.
Right.
I didn't have the respect for it because that's just kind of the mentality it was back then.
Gotcha.
And so, he asked me to come watch and go to nationals with them. I'm like, okay, I guess I'll go. Well, I saw some things, some girls, 7th and 8th grade girls doing things that my varsity boys couldn't do.
Right.
So, that's on the flight home from Nashville, Tennessee, I began to start to, really get in my lane about, or really have conversations with myself about how can we change the culture? Because at that time, El Paso basketball, at least on the girls' side, was 20, 30 years behind.
Right.
I mean, it was bad.
Right.
And so I started with 3 girls. Let me scroll back. Me getting into AAU basketball had to do with Craig Pringle. Craig Pringle was instrumental, completely instrumental in getting me involved. Monica Massey.
Yes.
She ran a team for years here that was highly competitive. She really taught me how to really be firm, be stern, and it was okay, and be unapologetic about it.
Right.
She's a master of getting kids in shape. I still can't do that.
Right.
I still struggle with that. But I learned so much from those two, how to travel, the funding and all those things. I learned a lot from that. I didn't know what AAU was, didn't know what a scout was. I had no idea.
So I'm gonna have to get Pringle on just so I can get some damn cheesesteaks.
Oh man. I'll be honest, I've never had one. I'm vegan, but I know his promotional. I watch this guy do this every time. How much cheesesteak? $5. Man, $5. He said, "Hey, I'll give you one. Take 2 bites and I'll count to 5. If you don't like it, I'll give you your money back." He never had to give his money back. Never.
No. I remember El Neal would say they'd find out where he was posted up outside at the club.
Yes, sir.
They weren't going to the club. They were going to get cheese.
Absolutely. You went to the club to get a cheesesteak.
Yeah, you didn't go in.
Right.
Girls like, girl, I ain't trying to talk to you. I'm just here to get a cheesesteak.
Absolutely. Go ahead.
So I was going to say, prior to your AAU stint with the girls,
right,
at Americas and at Horizon,
Absolutely.
You were coaching boys.
Correct. I apologize about that. Okay. Yes, it was on the boy side. Okay. Definitely on the boy side.
All right.
Yeah. So the transition was girls, like I said before. That was Pringle and Miss Monica Massey on that. So I just began to start. Come up with a name, and the thought process is Fusion, because my plan was to fuse all different walks of life together to make one team.
Got you.
So, that's where the name Fusion came from. It originally was, from a business perspective, we're El Paso Fusion, but we had to change the El Paso Fusion when we went to tournaments because I had started getting kids from all over.
Right.
Started getting kids from New Mexico, Colorado, Dallas, San Antonio.
So how were these kids outside of El Paso finding you?
Great question. At tournaments,
okay.
Particularly at tournaments, they were finding us, and also just kind of word of mouth. Knew some people who knew some people, and were looking for an AAU team. And I was blessed to get those calls. And when we first started, I'll be honest, I was just really I took over a team because I originally had 3 girls. Then I took over a team. Greg Bowie. Greg Bowie had a phenomenal AAU team here, a travel team here, disciplined and the whole nine. Everything he implemented, I just kind of rode that wave for a couple years.
Right.
However, we went to a tournament in San Antonio. I took my sister with me because I was just proud to be on the road. I was basically a groupie, a basketball groupie. And so we're going to these tournaments, Super 64 and kind of all over. And I said, hey, what do you think? She says, y'all are sorry. You're not very good. So I took it personally.
Right.
I said, excuse me? What are you talking about? All the work I've done, and I built this from the ground up. She goes, I don't care what you built. It's not very good. Matter of fact, it's garbage. So we didn't talk we didn't talk till we got home. And so, I what I did was I began to understand she's trying to get me to go to another level.
Right.
It's El Paso right now.
Right.
And so that really sparked the grain for me to start training kids better, to start, being more detailed, being about the detail, the big time on footwork, on, how fast you can get your shot off, shooting pocket. Right. I mean, all those things really, and, getting kids to dedicate themselves to the game to play at the next level.
Right. Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because, hell, I guess ever since I've really known about the AAU, Fusion has been, hell, I should nickname y'all the Standard. That's what I should nickname. Because y'all have, your team has always been the Standard. Like, there have been some other good teams. So it's not a disrespect to any of the other ones. And when you have more, competitive teams, it helps the overall product. Because like what I tell people is, look, I can't train every kid in the city.
Right.
So it's good to have competition or whatever, throughout the city, other people training and stuff. But so like on y'all ends, but like what I kept finding out was there wasn't too many teams traveling like you guys were. Right. Like it's weird misconception. Some parents think traveling is we're going to go play in Albuquerque, or we're going to go play a tournament in Tucson, or sometimes when they would go down to San Antonio. And then I'd have to explain to them, like, well, do you understand? I said, okay, there's travel, but then to me there's exposure travel.
Absolutely.
Because exposure travel is different. You're going to places where you're going to be seen. So Absolutely. Like when you would tell me like, oh yeah, now we in Indianapolis, and I was like, damn, okay, Indianapolis, or we in Chicago, right. You spend all the time in Dallas, where it's almost Dallas has seemed to become like a big hub of on the AAU circuit. Absolutely. On the girls' side, it's out in the Frisco area around Rock.
It is Frisco, Mansfield, Dallas right. is really the hub. Right. Boys and girls.
Yeah,
boys, Pro Scouts, the Gasso.
Yeah.
We actually took a boys team to the Gasso. But just being honest, like we've been blessed to have success. I mean, we recruit good kids and good parents.
Yeah.
And I advise all our parents understand that they recruit you too.
Yeah.
Understanding, just having an understanding of how to respond, how to behave, how to
right.
Just go about your business and be professional in a sense. And and I'll be honest, we've had some success. I mean, we've since I think 2012, we're at about 98% from any girl that comes in our organization. They're going on to play college basketball. This guy's laughing at me here.
He said we've had some success. We have a 98%.
I mean,
like, yo, I get it, man. I get it. I know you don't. We want to be humble and modest, but let's be real. 98% ain't some success. Hell no. We ain't going there, but I get you. But like, you're the standard. That's what I'm saying. It's like you're the standard. Like, there's look, and again, it's not a knock on some of these other teams. It's basically it's Fusion, and then there's everyone else on the second tier trying to get like Fusion. So the way I would look at it would be like, yeah, I need to figure out where his code, crack his code, because I'm trying to be better than Fusion, right? I'm trying to get my girls team to be out there and bring some, attention and exposure to some girls that I have. And I know that some of these coaches talk to you. I know that.
They do, and the one thing we've always said we're going to be is we're going to be about the city.
Right.
And we tell all parents, you may not be for us, but you may be for somebody else. Right. Any coach, male or female, that's out there trying to get kids to play, it's appreciated from us. Right. It is complete love. Right. But there's levels to it, and that's and that's understandable. It's okay. What we've tried to do is just really, wherever we go play, we never tell them where we're from until after it's done. We don't want you to, when you see us play, we want you to ask where we're from. Right. And not be like, oh, they're from El Paso. Right. They're from, And so.
It's just a stigma.
Yeah, it is. And so, that's that, Adidas called us, unfortunately, they called us in 2016 to be on their circuit, be a contracted team with them. And again, it was just a blessing, to be honest. But it was a lot of hard work involved.
Yeah.
A lot of hard work. And what we did was like, okay, well, how can we bring on another team in our organization and just have a real grassroots? And right. So, people, you had certain people that were very, that really didn't understand what we were trying to do, didn't understand where we were. Mm-hmm. A lot of people didn't know us because we didn't play in town. Right. We played in town maybe once in 10 years, twice in 10 years. Right. And for us, we got a lot of backlash early on because, oh, you're from here, you're hating on El Paso. And it wasn't that. Our mindset was, we need to go where the coaches are, because that's the only way we're going to get seen. Exactly. That's true exposure. And so we had to really explain that to different coaches and things of that nature. We would have people ask us to come to their leagues, and we wouldn't do it, and they'd be upset. I said, hey, man, we'll come sweep your floor, support you any kind of way. Right. But this is why we don't play here. It has nothing to do with El Paso. Right. There is a need for what you're doing. Right. What you're doing is developing kids for a team like myself and some others that are traveling. Right. So, finally get them to understand that. But then, most of the AAU coaches were saying, well, I'm going to just piggyback your schedule. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to just go where you go. So that was their kind of recruiting tool. We're going the same place as you're going. Right. So I had to, get people to understand you can be at the same tournament, but not be at the same tournament. Right. And what that means is you're in the back gym at a middle school where there's no coaches, there's a janitor and a Coke machine. Right. And you're playing and no one sees you. It's not that your kid is not good. Yeah.
You hadn't built those relations.
Absolutely.
You haven't shown improved, because one thing that I don't think, because I've seen where kids and teams will go and they'll play in this tournament in Vegas, or they'll play in the Gasso. Like, oh yeah, we did really well, we won. So then like parents are like, yeah, we were killing up there. And I had to explain to them, like, I said, what division were you in? And I asked it in a sad way, like, well, what division were you in? And then when they tell them, I have to show them, like, look, you're in this division. Absolutely. There's like 4 other divisions ahead of you. Absolutely. I said the main division where the actual colleges are, those are almost mostly invites. You're not going to just get in there and put a team in, because the college coaches coming, they don't want to see it. When I say nobodies, I don't mean that the kids are nobodies. It's they don't want to see kids that, they don't feel that they can recruit. Right. So you have to go in and understand it. And that's to me, that's the educational part that we have to always continue to do with people coming up.
Right. And you're dead on with that. I mean, they have divisions that aren't even listed. Right. They're not even listed. It's in, as you said, I like supremely invite only. I mean, it's phone calls and texts. It's not an email out. There's not a flyer. Right. And so you really have, and well, how do we get in the door? And that was my thing. Well, how do I get there? Man, play well and win. So we would literally find teams and say, hey, this team is ranked 10th in the nation. We need to play them now. Right. And so we had a 8th grade freshman team at the time that ended up beating Joey Simmons. Joey Simmons, he went from Texas Elite to Team Lex.
Okay.
So they are Alexis. She's in WNBA, but I forgot her. Forgive me, I forgot her name. But Joey Simmons runs Premier Basketball, which is big time. I mean, big time all over the country. And so we ended up playing his actual AAU team and beating that 8th grade team. And that kind of got us a spark, like, who are these kids?
Right.
And so that kind of got us in some doors and meeting some people and got us some invites to tournaments. And we're like, well, where do we pay? Well, no, you good. Just play well.
Right.
And so I'm like, oh, I started to see the business side of it then.
Right.
Like, oh, this is, so I had to reevaluate what I was doing, how I was thinking, how I was preparing my kids, how I was coaching. I had to really change all that and just, and I'm the hardest critic, just like yourself. I mean, I'm a really hard critic on myself. And so I really just had to change my focus, change our whole focus, and change the whole strategy and understand it's an organization. It's not a team.
Right.
And so just understanding we are strictly a travel team, which we had always been. And I've advised parents, like, never tell a college coach, if you ever speak to one, that your son or daughter is playing in a city league team. Like, don't, because that, that you have your church league that travels certain places. You have your city league that travels 2 dates out of the year. I would recruit kids, say, hey, well, who are you playing with? Oh, we're traveling. When are you guys traveling? In June. I said, well, there's no NCAA sanctioned events in June.
Right.
And so I had to basically break down what the NCAA events were, even to some coaches.
Right.
Some coaches come up, hey, I want to scrimmage you. You say you're the best. Let's play. And I said, man, can we help you in any other way? Because we don't play against girls. Our girls don't play against girls. We play against either women. There's a women's league that we joined in Albuquerque one year. And then we used to play the post team.
Okay.
Every year. And then, we played boys. We found a high school team, fresh from JV, some varsity, sub-varsity, and played them.
Right.
People are like, well, what's wrong with girls? And it wasn't disrespect.
Nah.
The teams that we see, they play like boys.
Yeah.
So, we had to get our girls to adjust when you're playing against an inner city kid, Chicago, Florida, Miami, all these places that you have got to understand that you belong here.
Yeah.
And so it's a different level. And I had to stop my parents from saying, oh, my daughter's a beast. I said, no. When you see a beast, you won't even have to say that. You'll know immediately. It was really just changing that mindset. And that's what we're really built on, is changing the mindset. And that's why we've had, so many Division I kids. The last 7 years, we've had Division I kids. God bless. We've had players play in 9 different states, I believe, and 3 different countries. So, we've got our first this year. We have got this year, our second athlete is playing overseas in Ireland. And so we're really, really proud of that. Another one of our former players or alumni players, she is coaching now at California Baptist, I believe, at the Division I level. So, we've gotten a thing that I had to get involved with agents. Like, okay, who is this agent? How do I know this agent? And just being personal with them.
Right.
I'm not ready now, but I might be ready 2 or 3 years from now.
Right.
And so, seeing things before they happen.
Right.
It's kind of.
And it's funny because you start with one thing and it's like, okay, this is what this is what you're going to do.
Absolutely.
But then the thing is it starts to grow and expand, and it grows tentacles. Correct. So like when you say the overseas portion and now you're saying the agent portion, it's like, well, when you started Fusion, you weren't thinking about that happening, right? It was just an idea. So brings me to the next part of what it is you're trying to do.
Well, okay, but before I get there, I want to piggyback one thing. Craig Pringle, back to Craig Pringle. He told me, man, when you get into this, you're going to get offered several college jobs. So I started laughing like, man, don't gaslight me. Don't do that. And I've been offered literally exactly what he said, 4 to 5 Division I assistant coaches jobs, which I didn't take because it was about bigger than me.
Right.
It was about the kids.
Right.
And so, but yeah, so with that being said, now we have our recruiting service, SWBS, which is Southwest Basketball Showcase. We are not just starting. We started 10 years ago, to be honest.
You know we're going to be googly. Wait, hold on.
This gentleman next to me was very instrumental. Made me do a showcase, pretty much. He, brought sponsors in for food, fed the kids. I mean, he was so far ahead of my thought process and still is. But anyway, the event went well. He did the training for the kids, and I was able to just kind of see what I had dreamt of,
Right.
And we had it was a girl showcase. We had, the high school kids in the morning. We had coaches show up. We filmed, and we actually got kids signed on the spot.
It was 10 years ago?
Yeah, 2012.
Damn.
Yeah, 2012.
I'm not going to take away from anything. This is 2023 is our 10-year anniversary for not when I started the business, but when we got our first place. The smaller place we were at, and now we're at, this place currently. So 10 years.
Yeah, because I remember your daughter was actually in our showcase.
Oh, Lord.
Man, don't start that. She was just starting basketball.
Yeah, I know.
I remember you had your banner. I remember the table.
Yeah.
I remember, you made a call. Sponsors came with food. And I'm like, well, what is going on? And so
it was me and Gene.
It was you and Gene.
That did
Absolutely. Gene Costello. Yes, sir.
Yeah. Jeannie. Shout out to Jeannie, head coach.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Appreciate what you're doing too.
Yeah, man. It was really nice because at that point I was just getting into looking at doing showcases. And I want to say I did my first one.
You did.
Either right before yours.
Absolutely.
Or
correct.
Something. It was right around that time.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like I think the most important part of doing a showcase is you have to be able to have the connections.
Absolutely.
So like the fusion to me, this is just what I think. The fusion part, with you already being connected, having girls that could play, being able to go out and expose them and have these connections with these coaches, makes doing a showcase so much easier for you.
True. I'll be honest. The connections, and people ask, well, how do you get the connections? They just think, I just popped up in this.
Right.
There's a lot of late nights, 2, 3, 4 in the morning. Emails and things of that nature. Before I started Fusion, I literally took a year off to travel and see what it was about.
Right.
I went to the events as an assistant coach.
Right.
But I didn't know the business.
Right.
I didn't know how to contact scouts. There's certain buzzwords that you don't use.
Right.
There are certain buzzwords that'll get you, in the door. People want to know, well, who are you? Because everybody says they know basketball.
Right.
And everybody says they've done this and this and that. And so, who are you? And so, for me, 2012, I had to stop with that last showcase and just really dive in to the AAU piece because we had to get somewhere that we weren't.
Right.
And so, but moving forward, we relaunched after 10 years. And people ask, well, why now? Like, what, why is it a basketball? I thought you were doing showcases. And again, you talk about those branches.
Right.
And so, people I would have family members of our players like, hey, why don't you do a boys team? Hey, why don't you do hey, I got a small girls team. Well, my daughter's good, but couldn't play with this level. We've been with this team forever. And so there were so many times I would see a kid in the mall that wasn't on my team. And I'm like, hey, where are you headed? Because our thought process is, and our players know this, if you're a senior and it comes April, you're not playing with us.
Right.
We've moved on already. And we want you to move on. So our goal is always, hey, before you play your second or third high school basketball game of your senior year, you need to be committed and signed.
Right.
And so, we've been really blessed for that to happen.
Right.
From 2012 from 2012 until now. And so it's not an arrogant thing. It's just a process.
Right.
Right. You don't have, on the girls' side, you don't have seniors playing in April events when they've about to graduate or have graduated already.
Right.
And so and it's late. One thing you always advise the kids when I listen to you talk to kids is you're late. Oh, well, I'm just a sophomore.
Yeah, no.
You're late.
Yeah.
And so getting them to understand that and really not panic and just really speed up the work ethic. And again, I want the audience to be clear. If you listen to this, I'm a trainer, but I'm not. I'm not on street creds level. Let's just understand that. I have sent my kids to Keenan as well as Gene Costello consistently, and advise them to go there consistently. People ask why. Number one, different voice, a different perspective. So if you're an AAU coach and you're doing both, don't be afraid to outsource that to your kids. It's only gonna create more relationships, just being honest.
Right. And
be honest, like you're gonna need the help. If you've got 30, 40 kids, our organization is fairly small. We want more teams, but we want people to be on that same mindset as us. So again, we outsource a lot of that training, and so that's important. And I just wanted to make sure we get that clear. But with SWBS recruiting, if we were going to be about helping kids, we got to help outside our organization.
Right.
And that was important to us.
Right.
And so people kept asking me, can you help me? Can you help me? And we helped so many kids that, certain kids didn't even know how they got recruited. And it was us.
Right.
We made a call and said, hey, she's not with us. Come watch this team. And so they were able to, sign them. We had Shannon Powell. Shannon Powell went to Bel Air.
Right.
Shannon Powell is, a bow-legged kid and kind of walks kind of funny, and you look at her, she looks older. She does not look like a basketball player. And so NMJC called me, and I said, well, there's a kid, it's not mine, but she can, I said, Coach, she can play. I'm telling you right now. I said, but just do me a favor. Don't go to warm-ups. Don't watch her warm up. Okay? And don't, coaches are big on the eye test.
Right.
I said, she's not an eye test kid.
No.
So I remember I was at another gym watching because I didn't want to show up with him. And, Shannon Powell walked out there. He said, Coach, this kid can't play. I said, Coach, do me a favor, Coach. Just watch for 3 minutes. Watch the first 3 minutes. And then I will never call you again. And lo and behold, 5 minutes went by. Coach, I'm signing this kid. His kid can play.
Yeah.
So Shannon Powell went from NMJC to Cochise to Seattle, and all three of those coaches called me, and she to this day never knew. Janelle Pettis. I was actually working at Horizon when Janelle Pettis was at Horizon. Assistant coach from Texas Tech. I made a call and said, hey, this kid is like, she was killing in the playoffs. I said, somebody needs to go watch this kid.
Right.
So one of the assistants reluctantly said, okay, I'll go, Went to go watch her. Well, she ended up getting the job at Nacogdoches, Northwestern State, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. She ended up getting that job and signing Janelle Pettis.
Yeah.
Janelle doesn't even know this to this day.
They know now.
So, these are things that we constantly did because we didn't want the recognition, wanted to just fly under the radar and go from there.
Yeah, it's a lot of behind the scenes.
Absolutely.
I was talking to Chad of Area Codes, and we did a segment as well. And, we put out, it's like, well, it was a secret, but it's not a secret anymore as far as those type of things. And you're right. I mean, you end up helping And I'm, when you talk about on level, I'm nowhere on your level when it comes to the stuff that you do with with the coaches and all the connections you have. I'm growing them, but for me, it's like the outsourcing thing. I'd rather just say, hey, you know what? Go talk to this person because this person's gonna get you right.
I'm glad you're being honest. You just don't want to grow it. That's the
well, yeah, I mean,
you got other things you got to do.
Yeah, this takes up an enormous amount of time. But
absolutely.
When it comes to doing that, it's just fascinating how even today there's so many kids who are falling prey to things that that aren't good fits. I actually have one right now that can definitely play on the next level, but they're with an organization, and I'll keep that secret. They're with an organization, and that organization has had they've had some very bad stars, not very many stars as far as what they do.
Absolutely.
And it's sad because you can help. Like, look, this is one thing that I've kind of been saying to myself starting in 2023.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen a lot of people, organizations take credit, for stuff
a lot of
that they don't do. And I've pretty much stood silent. I think 2023, I'm gonna probably get on some of those threads and be like, yo, man, that didn't have nothing to do with that. I mean, I say that now, but then it's like, well, you don't want to be like, oh, well, why are you guys being petty? No, it's not being, to me, it's not being petty. It's just, look, if you put the seeds, you flower the bed, and it grows, you should be the one to take credit for growing it.
Absolutely.
Not somebody else who just comes in and says they did something, rakes a few leaves and say that they did it. So it's amazing how divisive it could be when it comes to this type of stuff.
Absolutely.
But yeah, no, you have impacted a ton of people. Like you say, where nobody knows. Right. Nobody knows what you're doing. And now it's just about getting it out and letting more people know what's out there.
And I definitely appreciate that. And honestly, you talked about the similar bad positions, parents get in and they use the loyalty word on them. You're not loyal if you don't stay with us because you've been with us since third grade and things of that nature. So this is kind of why we've started this, because obviously I don't have a boys team at this point. Everybody can't play on our girls organization. So, SWBS Recruiting Southwest Basketball Showcase is built to really help others. And it's sort of an outsourced type of thing, if that kind of makes sense, because you don't have to leave your AAU team that you've played with since, you guys were in cradle roll or first grade or whatever, what have you. But we do advise, similar to yourself, athletes, if you're the best player, find another team. If you're the best player by far, find another team. If your coach is not providing a plan for you and at least where they think you could go and how to get there, you've got to find another team. I being an educator, I've always expressed to parents and athletes that basketball is like academics.
Right.
If I love my math teacher and she's awesome, but she can't teach me algebra 2 the way I need to get to college, I'm going to change the teachers.
Right.
And that's okay. The loyalty piece goes both ways.
Right.
I've had a player, Jaden Perez out of Las Cruces. She was always the youngest on our team, and we were starting fresh with a bunch of new girls, and we didn't know how good we were going to be. Mm-hmm. She already had 4 offers, so we went ahead and moved her to what we thought would be a high profile team. Mm-hmm. Hey, maybe let's try and add 2 offers. Mm-hmm. So she was very upset. Her parents wanted to meet with us and they thought we didn't want her anymore. So we had to explain to them, like, no, right now we don't think we're going to be at the level that we want to be at, or that maybe she's at. Mm-hmm. So let's try and get her, to a higher level. And so, she ended up going to San Diego State, doing 4 years there, graduated, things of that nature. But this is what those relationships allowed us to get into this space.
Right. It makes it so easy, and I've learned that. It's certain things that it's like, well, I'm just gonna do training. right? I'm not gonna do anything else. If it comes to this, I'm sending. But you're kind of forced to kind of start to do other things that you weren't really looking at doing.
You had to make calls for kids.
Yeah.
A lot of them.
You know what? I had a dad. I had a kid that I think it's his grandson now that I'm training, and he brought up to me about. He's like, man, my son, I always remember. He's like, man, I'm so appreciative. I remember when you rented a van and you took about 5 or 6 kids out to a college workout in Arizona. And I was like, wow. I said, I forgot about that.
Wow.
I remember, I rented the van. I told him, look, this is going to be, I call it, no disrespect to the military, but I love using, this is going to be like an extraction recon thing. We got the target, we going in,
right.
We drove out, I drove, and I was here, so I got the van, drove out, we left about 6 something in the morning because the workout was going to be at like 10 or 11. So we got there, they worked out. Gene was there because Gene had took a few kids as well. So we're there, the kids are working out, me and Gene hanging out and talking. Now we don't want to go because you know how it is when we all get together, we just start talking about whatever. Right. So then it was, after it was done, it was bring them back, awesome, turn. And it's like, you forget about those things and you don't like really put it, but he was like, he said, my son was just so like, he thinks the world of you because you went that extra mile to do that.
Absolutely.
But see, one thing that me and LO talk about is like my high school coach, when I was playing, my high school coach told me, all right, so here's the story. So I go to Lincoln. All right, so my senior year I'm playing. We've just won state. Junior year I wasn't allowed to play on the team my junior year. So on the varsity. So, senior year comes, everything's good. We go to New York. Now, I can't remember. I say this point guard was probably top 50, top 100 in the nation at the time. Wow. We ain't playing in the tournament. We balling. I'm going at him. He going at me. His handles my handles were not where his was, right? But I'm going at him, right? We win. I get back. I got a stack of mail. Coach is calling and everything, right? My coach tells me, don't sign anything. Don't commit to anybody. Because by the time we get to state, which is where we were projected,
it's gonna triple.
You're going to have almost a pick of the litter. Fortunately, I tore my ACL, didn't get that way. L says the same thing about how his coach was with how he did things. The point I'm making is we thought that this was what all high school coaches did.
No, sir.
As we're doing this, we're realizing, and it's really, when I say this, I'm not saying this in a bad way, is we realize that not all high school coaches have connections or even interested in doing that extra stuff. Absolutely. And that's fine. We figure if that's what you're about, then that's fine. But to me, you do have an obligation to letting those kids know, look, I don't do A, B, and C, right? So, I don't do B, C, and D. So A, I got you. But these other 4 things that you need, you're going to need to look elsewhere to get those things when it comes to a travel team or a recruiting service, because I don't do that. Now parents can do those things. So the stuff that I did for them and what Gene did and what you do and what other people do, you think that it's common knowledge because we had a false sense of thinking that all high school coaches did the same thing that ours did.
No, and so, God bless your high school coaches, for sure. Me being a high school coach, I'm kind of an anomaly because I've done both.
Right.
So people really can't come with, I'm an AAU coach, so I don't like high school coaches.
Right.
My athletes are not allowed to talk negative about their high school coaches.
Right.
They're not allowed to blame their high school coaches for their failures at all. Being a high school coach, just being honest, my perspective on it is, back then, if you didn't know something, you you threw shame on it because it wasn't good. AAU was just rolling off the ball and kids playing street ball. Well, it's not. You have a lot of programs that are running high level things that go to college practices.
Right.
I go to college practices at least 3-4 times a year just to see, hey, am I still relevant? Are the things I'm doing, do they make sense? Is that what we're doing now?
Yeah.
And so those things are important. And as a high school coach, my thought was, okay, Lee, if you don't know it, learn it.
Right.
Understand what it's about. Don't go. I was going off what I heard.
Right.
And so I just went off what I heard. But my thing too is a lot of times, but depending on what state you are, you kind of handicapped.
Right.
There's certain things that you can do, but you can outsource.
Right.
And so, my thought process, and I can only speak for our city, you have some coaches that don't want to get involved with any type of AAU team. I go to practices. Franklin High School on the girls' side, Coach Waters invites me to practice all the time.
Right.
He 2 years ago, he really got my mindset going about speed, and he was at Chapin at the time.
Right.
So I went to a practice, and I'm watching, and I take notes on my phone. They think I'm texting, but I'm really taking notes on my phone, just about the pace,
right?
The pace of practice,
right?
You think, well, your pace is fast, Lee, because you can recruit kids. I get what I get.
You don't have a
but if you have them every day, I've done it. You can do it. I've had kids that should not have won 5 games, and they ended up winning 18 games.
Right.
So it can be done. It really can. And so, I began to think about, well, how can I help kids? How can I get kids out? How can I understand it? And really, there weren't many opportunities to get involved with people that you're doing now.
Right.
Now there's no excuse. There are so many people doing different things. Obviously, you got to do your research. But there's so many people doing things, at least as a high school coach nowadays, you can outsource those things. But you got some high school coaches choosing what AAU team they play with because maybe I don't like this person or that person.
Right.
As I tell kids, this is bigger than us. So I've definitely tried. There's some coaches that don't want us in our gym.
Right.
I've gone to a practice and what are you doing here? No, you need to be out. Yes, ma'am, I apologize. And and I didn't take it personal. That's just kind of what it is.
Right.
But and we've, since had a conversation and all that stuff is under the water, under the bridge, so to speak. But, high school coaches, if you have a responsibility for their social and emotional, you as an educator, I know, I'm speaking for what I know, we wear different hats. So my thought process as a high school basketball coach, we've got to wear different hats as well.
Yeah.
From trying knowing a kid can get to the next level, we've got to do whatever we can to.
Right. My dream has been to unite. I know it's kind of a far-fetched dream, but my dream is to unite the high school coaches as well as the AAU coaches, and to make it a situation where, everybody can help each other.
Absolutely.
And the reason why I said it is on both sides, but especially on the girls' side, I've never been one to go give, I don't show up to places, if I'm watching kids, I don't go around trying to give my card to people like I'm selling what I do. Right. I always want everything to grow organically, right? If somebody asks, then obviously give them. For the first time in ever, I went to see America's. I was going to see what's
Jordan?
No,
female?
Yeah, the little guard that I got from you. Oh my goodness, I can't.
Ariel.
Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, Ariel. She gonna be like, oh, Coach, you didn't forget So I was going to see Ariel play last year. They were playing at the Eastwood tournament. Okay. And they were playing favorites. Mm-hmm. Now, obviously, you were there.
I was.
Right. Yeah. See, my audience knows that my mind sometimes drifts and I forget things. And one of these days I'm gonna be on the radio like, well, what are we talking about? What is this? Why is this damn microphone up here? But no. In any case, we're watching Famous. You had talked to me you had actually had me to talk to the JV coach. But I had actually saw a mom in the stands before I went over there to you, and she was upset watching them play. Now, I've seen a lot of teams play, and I've seen some bad teams. What I saw with this girls team, and again, what I tell parents and stuff is, you know what, it's not necessarily your fault that the girls team were as bad as they were. They just didn't seem like they knew what to do. That comes from developing. Now, whose responsibility is it? I don't, that has to be figured out. I kind of know. In my head, I would know where the development should come. But then, even having said that, you have to have commitment from those players to be committed to getting better. I gave the parent the card. I said, look, I don't normally do this, but I saw your frustration and I saw that they need a lot of work. I was talking like I was an attorney. I was like, I do this pro bono. You get those girls over here, and I'll give you, a few workouts at no charge.
That's beautiful.
Just because I don't want to see what I just saw again.
Right.
She said, oh, okay, yes. Took my card, never heard from her. Now, the conversation can't be, well, you're too far out, because I don't know, is Fabens further out than Santa Lazario?
It is.
Is Fabens far out than Mountain View?
It's on the other side, but it is a little further out.
Okay, so because I have kids coming from there. Now, I've had a kid come from Van Horn.
Wow.
They would drive from Van Horn. Right now, I got a kid coming from, I always mess this up, I think it's Tularosa, Tucumán in New Mexico right now.
Wow.
Yeah, got him. So I know traveling, that's 2 hours one way. So they're committed. So it messed with me, because I said I got outside of myself with giving them a card, and then the fact that she never messaged me to try to set something up. It even bothered me more to like, yo, don't ever do that again. I was like, Keenan, don't you ever do that again, because you were willing to put yourself out there and you told them you would do it for free, knowing how bad they were, knowing how they couldn't get the ball up, and they didn't want to contact you. Okay, all right, so I left it alone, and I apologize for putting myself out there. Won't happen again.
First and foremost, I appreciate you doing that. I've done probably too many pro bono things in the past. You mentioned whose responsibility is it? I honestly think it's everybody's.
Yes.
Everybody can play a piece in it.
Yes.
The AAU coach, we don't know everything.
Right.
High school coaches, we don't know everything.
Training, we don't know everything.
When it comes to certain things with basketball, they call it stealing. I call it borrowing. I'm gonna borrow this from you.
We all thieves. Yeah. We all thieves.
So for the most part, 80-75% of relationships I have with our coaches are, grade A. Like for me, the best recruiting environment a kid can have is when the travel AAU coach and the high school coach are on the same page.
Absolutely.
And so what we do every year, the coaches that we're in contact with, is, hey, what did you see that she wasn't doing when she was with us?
Right.
So we can get better. And in the beginning, like, hey, coach, we started in March. What do you need from her next year? I know her role is going to be different. What are your expectations? Here's what she does for us. We had a kid at Chapin High School in Central El Paso. It's not Northeast.
Hey.
I apologize. But I'm just being honest. Once you pass that Whataburger, if you can jog the Chico's Tacos, you are Central. Let's just be clear. Now,
really?
Absolutely.
See, now look. Now I gotta understand. I'm not from El Paso. I've been here for a long time, but I don't know these little subtle things. I didn't know it was no lie.
Yeah. So somebody say, hey, it's Northeast. It's really not Northeast. Now they have a Northeast environment. Let's just be honest. Let's just be honest. They have a great culture. Boys and girls basketball.
Yeah,
a great culture.
Weave doing this thing.
And so, we had a kid on this year on Chapin, and so she played 3-4 just because they didn't have the size. So she played sometimes 5. And so our thought process was, okay, we need to, figure out how we can market her. Everybody has a different market. So for her, we were just going, great passer, probably one of the better passers in town, great mind, can do a little bit of everything, athletic. And so we just put the ball in her hand and said, you're going to play the one. And she had never done that before, but, worked with her, trained with her, and things of that nature. And, just so happened this year, I've only went to two games. But when the ball's in her hand, things just happen. And so it was a really good player. Signed, I think she's going to Texas Western, if I'm not mistaken, signed there. Got Chapin really on top right now.
Right.
But again, Coach Weaver, can't say enough about him.
Yeah.
He's gone.
He texted me too.
Did he? Yeah. he has definitely kept that program where it's supposed to be, because they weren't supposed to do some things a couple years ago, and
they were there.
They were there and handled their business. And so and I noticed he gets a lot of flack online. High school, you suck, and it's not just him, but a lot of high school coaches.
Yeah, I know him. I saw. I think it was on Twitter. I saw him post something, and I didn't really know where it was coming from. But he was. I'm gonna have him on the podcast.
Yeah, man. For me, we tell all our parents, look, hey, support your kid.
Right.
Support. We're going to do some things that you may not agree with me. We're going to have a philosophy that maybe you haven't done before.
Right.
But for somebody to be successful and say they don't know what they're doing, and it just doesn't add up. It doesn't make sense. And so, a lot of times we get sensitive, a la Kevin Durant. No disrespect, Kevin, love your game, but and feel we have to respond because we work hard. You got to figure. People think the high school coaches just coach. Like, they got to teach class, come off a full load, and then get you ready for a game. People get. It's a lot that goes on into it that we put into it. And so, and that's any high school coach.
Right.
It's just that sometimes you had a kid, sometimes you don't. But that development piece, what you just talked about, the outsourcing piece, what you just talked about, had I been at Horizon when we first started and somebody said, hey, man, I'll train your kids for free, I'm renting a school bus to try and get over there at whatever cost it is.
No, it was like I had an out-of-body experience. Because as I said it, I was saying, what the hell are you saying? What the hell?
Right.
Not like I couldn't afford to do it, but I was just so passionate about saying, I can fix it.
Right.
I can fix it. Now, whether you practice it enough to be able to implement it is on you.
Right.
But I can show you how to deal with the things that you was like, they couldn't get the ball. The Americans had to stop. They had to go to a 2-3 zone. And it was a passive 2-3 zone. Now, I might get some flack for calling this out. And you know what? If I'm wrong, show me some film where I'm wrong, because I've seen the games. I was there. They couldn't, and it is like, and I'm looking at it saying, okay, it's to me in this instance, I didn't put it on the coach, I didn't put it on the players. I just put it on the fact that they are nowhere near where they need to be. Now, how do you do it? Now, you introduced me to the assistant, one of the assistant coaches.
Absolutely.
I gave him card.
Yeah.
There was no
former players.
There was no contact. Hey, you know what? What can you do to help? Because I'm always gonna try to help.
Right.
But there was nothing like that. So, like, I'm not even gonna use the term bad basketball. I'm just thinking to myself, why are they that bad?
And if I can interject, if you will, in working at a small school, I've gone from big school to small school.
Right.
The pool of athletes that you have to work with and you don't, and they go from, let's just say, boys.
Mm-hmm.
They go from football to basketball to soccer to wrestling So they never really get an off season.
Right, and then like on the girls' side, I know it's much more difficult because
Absolutely.
you don't have girls. So I know all this. So if this comes across as like I understand the whole context. I can't just explain everything A, B, and C. I'm talking about
It was bad though. I was there.
I'm talking about a possible, just one segment of what I'm watching, right? And it's like I need to help them. I gave cards. I spoke with them, but nobody contacted me. So now, in the baddest part about it is, I didn't give any of those cards to the girls because they had just played.
Right.
So I'm giving them to responsible adults, figuring, well, if they really are passionate about those kids getting better, they're gonna let those kids know. So now I don't even know if the girls knew about it. Yeah. It's almost like I should have gave each and every one of them one and said, look, if you really want, give me a call. We'll work something out. I can help.
And again, I'm not making excuses, but they're so.
Oh yeah, it's a lot. I know it's a lot. I know it's not.
There's so much on high school coaches right now.
Yeah,
they get complaints about.
I know.
I was color uniforms, and she didn't get her number. And
I was talking to somebody recently about how bad it is.
It's bad
with how teachers are just so handcuffed with everything. So I'm not gonna get all off into there, but hey, just so y'all teachers know, hey, I'm rolling with y'all. If we about to go to war, I'm bringing the extra ammo and I'm on that side of the fence with you. All right, that's how I'm rolling. So
I appreciate you, man.
Before we get out of here, what's the future, man?
Man, listen, the future is to really, help as many kids as possible. Right now, I am fixated on Southwest Basketball Showcase, SWBS. We have an event for middle school in March. We're also doing a senior event, senior showcase event that we're doing here in El Paso, so there'll be no excuses. Everybody can go. We will be putting that out there soon. That's going to be in April. Hope I get these dates right. Our middle school showcase is girls. It's girls, so it will be this March, and so we'll be doing it. That'll be a relaunch for us. Most people think, well, you just started this. No, we've been doing this for a while. It's just the fact that it was morphed into, our AAU team. So, basically,
But I will tell you this. It's probably from my point of view, it's a great thing. Because the eyes that you can have now on these girls
absolutely
are 100 times more than what you could have had on them 10 years ago.
Oh, goodness.
So it's almost like it's a first and I've told some of my girls that can go, like I'm not trying to send girls that aren't ready because I don't want them to go into that experience and come out bad and be like, you know what, you just put me. I want girls that are ready, and I'm going to try to get the girls that aren't ready, and then have them go there. But I was telling them, like, you need to really go to this event.
Right. And this El Paso doesn't really have they haven't really fully grasped the concept of a showcase, an individual showcase.
Right.
I went to my first showcase and I watched. It was in San Antonio with Ray Caldwell. She's balling. Mm-hmm. Shout out to Ray. Went to his event. There were scouts there. My kid made a move, shot a ball. A call was made. Texas Tech called me.
Right.
Within minutes.
Right.
Within minutes. So now with social media and all these things, we don't have. My mom doesn't follow me on social media. It's college coaches.
Right.
And so just know when something is posted from SWBS, just know a college coach will see it. So, and just to be clear, we have a specific client that we're looking for. Mm-hmm. One that's hungry, one that's committed, one that has the ability to really play at that next level, has that potential,
Right.
and really is hungry about playing at the next level, and is gonna do all the things that needs to be done to get recruited, from having the proper social media, from having a proper work ethic. I've talked to a couple clients I had, they're in a relationship with somebody and that's posted for the first 3, 4, 5 days. Coaches, that's a negative, Not saying not to post it, but when that's all there is, their mindset is, okay, if this kid comes here, will he come here? He's got this girlfriend here that he's heavily involved with. Is that going to be an issue?
Right.
Is that going to be an issue being homesick and things of that nature?
That happens a lot.
It does. And so kids in the area, El Paso, New Mexico, West Texas, listen, do not be afraid to leave the nest.
Right.
That's important. You're able to grow individually, socially, emotionally. You're able to grow and just seeing more things. The world is bigger than where we are. And so that's what we try and really tell our clients and give them an opportunity just to see what's out there. If you're a client that says, okay, I only want to play in Texas, like those are clients we probably don't take on,
right,
regardless of skill set.
Right.
If you're open yourself up to the nation and you have the capabilities of playing at the next level, and we have people evaluate you like yourself, like Gene, LO, and things of that nature, and other college coaches, that's something that we would definitely look, working with you. Is it just El Paso? Absolutely not.
Right.
I mean, our first 2 clients were from Dallas and San Antonio. We also worked with a kid from Louisiana, also Alabama.
Right.
And so for us, it's just a matter of working with giving everybody opportunity, regardless of where you live.
Right.
Let's not let these miles and these states block us from really for you being successful.
Right. Well, man, I appreciate it. I know we could go on and on.
Absolutely.
But we'll have to get you back on. I'm sure I might get some bad comments. I'm not gonna close my comments on my podcast if people feel a certain type of way about some of the things I said. I get it. And maybe I've always tried to be the type of person that if somebody said it's from a different point of view or let me to see it that way, I'm not gonna be like in my feelings. I'll be like, you know what, you're right. I'll be the first to say I'm wrong with everything. So
let me just it's all about how it's perceived.
Right.
A lot of times criticism can allow you to grow.
Oh yeah.
It may hurt in the beginning, just like my sister, told me something that I didn't appreciate, but it really helped me grow.
Right.
And so it really showed me, even when I was a high school coach, Lee, where are you? Where are you going? And so as a parent, as an athlete, as a high school coach, as an AAU coach, AAU coaches are highly sensitive.
Right.
Highly sensitive. Let's lock in on growing the culture.
Right.
Growing the game.
Yeah, absolutely. So
that's the piece.
So get at me if let me get at me and let me know what you thought, and if I'm wrong, let me know how I was wrong so we can make it right. Because I want those girls and Fabins to have opportunity to try to play at the next level just like anybody else. So this is all the time I have. I appreciate you coming, man. And I'm going to end it like I always end it. If it was easy, everybody would be doing it.
Amen.
I'm out.
Amen. Appreciate you having me on, man.
All right now.